the music industry has changed so much in the last really 2 or 3 years. I wonder what the Grammys are for right now. What do they mean for businesses, whether it's the business of an artist, a label, or, I don't know, Spotify?
It's actually a great question, because if you look over the last decades, I mean, the Grammys has always been the best marketing event that the record label business has ever had. And, you know, after the Grammys, there's usually a bump of a 2x to an 8x on the number of weekly sales you'd have on a CD or an album. And you're going to see that in the Spotify charts this week. But I don't know what it's going to do for the revenue of the music business right after the Grammys. It's a great question.
Well, Spotify just let us know about what happened with Beck and that recording album. I'm still stuck with, I don't know, 20th century nouns. But Spotify has just told us that Beck's worldwide streaming shot up 524% overnight after winning that Record of the Year thing. Kanye West probably helping a lot by dissing that win. So why don't we break it down and go through a couple things. So for an artist perhaps whose music was the least listened to, he was a surprise winner, sort of, except that he was nominated, so he kind of narrowed the field a little bit. But for someone who had the least listened to record, Spotify had predicted Beyonce would win because she had the most downloads. That ain't how the Grammys work.
No, not at all. In fact, I think Beck was 5th out of 5 on the Spotify charts, simply because the Grammys are an industry event. So there's a very small committee of people that actually curate the people who are nominated in the first place. And then the voters themselves are members of the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences. So, you know, it really comes down to the demographic and tastes of the members, not really what's being streamed. The only thing that streaming really has an effect on is just like any other promotional vehicle like radio or MTV or now Vivo. It's just it's in the amount of exposure that it gets and how many times a person of the Academy might be listening to it, not necessarily the general public. Though I would say that, you know, it is the music business, so people in the music business are thinking what's going to be able to sell more records. So if it is a popular title and they think they can sell more, well, I say records too, albums, CDs, digital downloads, streams, you know, just to get more exposure is important.
We can go recordings. I think that'll work. You know, I think that also that one of the interesting things here is that the digital services have made it much harder for things in terms of musical discovery, finding what music to listen to. They've also made it a lot faster to get the music itself. You know, if you've got a Spotify subscription, you haven't heard Beck's record, bam, you've got it. If you don't know who Beck is and he's standing on the stage performing it at the Grammys, you turn on Shazam, you identify the artist because you didn't hear LL Cool J introduce him, and then all of a sudden you're listening to this new music. And so I wonder if the importance of something like the Grammys in terms of music discovery, because music discovery is so much harder now because people aren't listening to the radio, that the Grammys becomes, and those tentpole events become much more important.
I actually completely agree with you. I think that just some of the duets, some of the really incredible combinations. The great thing about the Grammys is it's not about speeches, it's about performances. So I think you'll see people thinking about the Grammys going forward as more of a discovery event as well, of unknown artists and artist combinations that you wouldn't have heard about.
Yeah, so I wonder if then there are more events that have to happen there, or if sort of the great important apps might be things like Shazam that help people find the music that they like or find similar music that they like.
Absolutely. In fact, I mean, Shazam, Spotify, songs, there's so many different really interesting playlists companies that are coming out right now that are helping with discovery. Though I will say that there's this inflection point between discovery and exposure and then cannibalism, and that's, you're seeing that with Taylor Swift right now, where you're in the rarefied air of being really important. Being discovered is great through these services, but then when you start to just purely consume only through these services, the artists themselves are going to find themselves, you know, hurting their own album business.
And then finally, I wonder about the impact of social media, where the artists that have big followings on Instagram or Twitter end up getting both more airtime, more, you know, fancy clothes from the swanky designers and all that, because social media is leading to their sort of popularity on a lot of other platforms other than just recording music.
Yeah, I mean, look at Meghan Trainor. She was up, you know, for awards this year, and she's incredible on social media. I think social media in general is becoming this direct-to-consumer opportunity for artists. And, you know, I've gotten a lot of them. I've had two major artists, like two of the top artists, come to me in the last year just to try to figure out, what do I do now that I have this direct-to-consumer following? How do I make money off of it? Because now you see Beyonce putting out midnight records. You see a lot of money being made between touring and building a brand, that it's not necessarily happening through the sale of music, that social media is playing an incredible part of it, and it's going to reshape the way we make money, or at least artists make money in the future.